All right, we're diving into a poem that so many of us think we know, maybe even love, Derek Walcott's Love After Love. But here's the thing. What if that warm, comforting message of self-love is really just a mask for something way, way more disturbing?
You know these lines, right? They feel like a warm hug. It's this beautiful promise that someday, after all the nonsense, all the trying to be someone else, you'll finally meet your real self. And it's going to be this moment of pure joy. It's pretty much the anthem for self-acceptance. Or is it? Because according to one interpretation, that's a complete misreading. What if this poem isn't a guide to healing at all? What if it's actually a weapon, a blade being slipped quietly between your ribs?
Okay, Section 1, a deceptive welcome. The whole thing kicks off with a smile, a friendly greeting, but that welcome might be hiding a very, very dangerous deal.
So to really get this, you have to get the guy who wrote it. Derek Walcott's entire life was about these deep splits. He was a Protestant in a mostly Catholic world, and he had both black and white ancestors. You could say he was a person born from a kind of colonial fracture, which might just be why he could write a poem where your own self shows up at your front door like a complete and total stranger. And this really gets to the heart of it. On one hand, you've got the reading we all know, this lovely, gentle reunion with yourself. But on the other hand, this new reading, it suggests something absolutely shocking. It says this isn't a reunion, it's an invasion. The you that arrives at the door isn't a long-lost friend. It's an occupying army, and it's here to take over. Which brings us to Section 2, the stranger at the door. So if this poem isn't meant to be comforting, what in the world is it? Well, maybe it's a kind of psychological weapon, one designed to completely tear down the identity you've spent your whole life building. To get this, we've got to do a super quick dive into some pretty heady psychoanalysis, specifically Jacques Lacan. He had this idea called the mirror stage. It's that moment when a baby first sees itself in a mirror and has that, aha, that's me, realization. We create this perfect whole image of ourselves, and that image becomes our ego. You know, the polished version of us that we show to the world. Now, Walcott takes that crucial moment of identity creation and completely flips it on its head. The poem literally tells you to peel your own image from the mirror. I mean, think about that. It's a command to violently tear down your own ego, to strip away that self you've so carefully constructed. And let's be really clear here. This is not that cozy Jungian idea of, making friends with your shadow self. No, this reading is way more aggressive. You aren't just integrating with the stranger. You are clearing the way for a total takeover. You're getting up from the throne so someone or something else can sit down. Let's move on to Section 3, the ritual of consumption. Because what's happening here isn't therapy. Oh no. It's a ceremony, a ritual with very specific and very dangerous steps. Think about the instructions in the poem. They're so specific. Give wine, give bread. That sounds a lot like a Christian Eucharist, right? But here's the twist. There's no God involved. This is a secular Eucharist. The offering is made to the stranger, who is also you. And the transubstantiation, that moment of magical change, it happens inside your own soul. It's literally an act of self-consumption. Now let's put this whole thing into its historical context. The poem was written in 1976. This was a time of huge change. Empires were falling apart, and new post-colonial nations were trying to figure out who they were. So what Walcott does is, he takes this massive external political fight and he turns it inward. The poem talks about the other you betrayed yourself for. Well, what if that other was the empire? The colonizer's reflection you tried so hard to live up to. Suddenly, the feast becomes this violent internal act of decolonization. You are literally devouring the foreign gaze you've been carrying inside you your whole life. And if you look at this through a Freudian lens, you can see two big forces duking it out. You've got Eros, the life drive, right? The drive for self-love and connection. But then you've got Thanatos, the death drive, the drive toward destruction. And in this reading, peeling your image, taking down the love letters, that's not just self-care. It is a powerful act of destruction that's just disguised as love. The urge to erase and consume is actually stronger than the urge to heal. And that brings us to the final and honestly, the most chilling part of this whole thing, the impossible reading. This is where the poem stops being a psychological thriller and goes full-blown doppelganger horror story. So let me just ask you this. What if the stranger who arrives at your door, the one smiling at you from your own mirror, what if it isn't some lost part of yourself coming home? What if it is literally your double, your doppelganger, and it's here to replace you?
Just look at the poem again with that idea in mind. It turns into this deeply sinister instruction manual. Step 1, you feed the stranger. You nourish this parasite. Step 2, you give back your heart. You lower your last and most important defense. Step 3, you peel your image from the mirror, basically erasing the original so the copy can step right in. And then the final terrifying step. Sit, feast on your life. The double consumes your entire existence from the inside out.
In that feeling of elation that the poem starts with, in this reading, that's not joy. It's the first symptom of madness. It's the dizzying high of total surrender, that moment when your own identity completely dissolves, and you can't even tell anymore who's the host and who's the parasite. Which brings us to the final brutal conclusion. Derek Walcott, a man who, by the way, was born a twin, so he knew the terror of the mirror image. He didn't write a poem about recovery. He wrote a poem about a beautiful, elegant, and ecstatic usurpation.
So the next time you read Love After Love and you feel that gentle pull to welcome that stranger in, just remember this reading. The poem is an invitation. Yes, but an invitation to what exactly? Feast carefully.